Good morning. This is DebraVWilson. It is Friday, the 31st of July, 2020. I'm in Bradford, West Yorkshire, and that's in England. Heads up, I'm going to be doing a lot of hemming and hawing. Because I'm working through something that's a stream of consciousness that I actually want to put on YouTube. So here we go. Very early this morning at midnight, the health secretary, health minister, Matt Hancock, announced new restrictions on parts of the country in northern England. And here's the other thing. Geography is not my thing. The rules impact people in Greater Manchester, East Lancashire, and parts of West Yorkshire. Bradford is one of the places in West Yorkshire that's impacted. Well, the interesting thing about this is the response, because it was midnight. And it's a holiday for Muslims. So the weekend they're celebrating Eid. So there's that. And the timing of it in general for many people that were, if you Twitter's any indication. The mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, and I'll post that video, questioned the handling of the announcement. The health minister, Matt Hancock, opines about his understanding of the environment in which the people that will receive this news. And that's the interesting part of this. So in a situation like this, here I go, with a public health crisis, and that is a virus that can be lethal for some people, that currently there is no protection against there's no immunity, and that immunity, if such immunity does exist, for people who contract the virus, the epidemiology of the virus is still in the discovery mode. And certainly there is more known collectively, globally, now, as we approach August, than it was in, say, March. But I think, and indeed some vaccines are at the testing stage on human participants. But the mere fact that the word testing is involved is still in the discovery stage of the, again, epidemiology of the virus. So so you can say that this, you might construct it as an emergency. It's certainly a stressful situation. And so the context for me is the four nations that make up the United Kingdom. And so in times of stress, be it in personal relationships or relationships between people and a state, the government, those relationships get tested and tried. And nothing becomes clearer than in times of great stress, how the participants in said relationship understand that relationship. So Matt Hancock, and here I go, and I'm planning this country I want as my home. So here we go. One of the things that I think it appears that he is attempting to do, the vast majority of us are not scientists. I'm not a scientist. And as scientists, I include medical doctors because they are scientists. So the thing about a disease, particularly a virus you don't know that you're in the discovery mode for the epidemiology of said virus. The virus, and that we when this, at the very start of this, we had no immunity whatsoever, and those people who have contracted the disease and survived it, they're still in discovery mode. If they have acquired immunity, what that immunity looks like and how it performs in the human body is still in the discovery mode. So that's so Matt Hancock is dealing with a situation which he has to explain the reality of a virus and that reality is still being defined. Then even if the reality of the virus is defined, part of what public health does is to show how I'm going to say a disease, an illness manifests itself in a myriad of ways, and part of the ways it manifests itself in where people live and who they are, their physical state, their age, how they understand disease, how willing they are to reach out for medical help, how much medical help is available to them, how much they understand, any barriers of cultural barriers, language barriers, all those things. And he has to grapple all of that to correctly communicate the nature of this situation. And then I don't know him, but I think one of the things I'm sure of, because of his position, he needs to exhibit control of the situation. But the reality is he's trying to maintain the veneer of control, which all executives should do, and they are expected to do, but controlling a situation in which the knowledge base is there's still some fluidness to it. Definitely there are things that are known, a greater knowledge base now, but it's still in development. So in addition to this dreadful COVID-19, it is giving voice to relationships, the way the people who are vulnerable and why they're vulnerable. Is it because of age? Is it because of pre-existing conditions? Is it because of the ethnicity? And it wouldn't be inherent ethnicity, but how ethnicity, lived experiences that can be associated with an ethnicity, what those vulnerabilities are, what protections there are for people of other ethnicities. So all that he's working through, I'm not making a judgment, and I'm not going to do that. Because what I'm seeking to understand myself is all the pieces, all the dynamics. And the pieces and the dynamics are quite challenging. It is quite the arduous task. So the government is in the position of explaining a situation that is still being explained to them. And we, the public, want it, and we're right and we're correct, want it to be explained to us as quickly and clearly as possible. So that's how I see the situation. And so I hope, because I don't know Matt Hancock, I hope the health secretary is of the disposition that he and his team are able to take that to and fro and know that there is going to be an uneasy period, but where criticism is appropriate and correct, they adjust their model of presentation. And where they have done the best possible in a situation, given the situation being, explaining what is still in many parts the unknowable and what is still being discovered. If people say we don't understand, then it will be the health secretary's job and responsibility to continue to make that clearer for people. And if it isn't, then to seek to understand why it's not clear. Right. So, It's a million, there's one pieces, metaphorically speaking. But it's how I deal with the situation. I'm not immune from the uncertainty of all of this. And I always try to seek an understanding of what the pieces are that are contributing to the uncertainty. My personality, that makes me feel better and is somewhat in control. But that's just me. And nevertheless, I still seek to understand the pieces. So factually, from my perspective, Matt Hancock, the health secretary, has to continue to explain what is still being explained to him. And when we, the public, as I'm calling this place home, this country home, when we, the public, say we don't understand, if it's a million times we don't understand and need him to do it differently, then we should give voice and say, because that need for us to understand is literally giving voice to not just our frustration, but our vulnerability in the situation. The health secretary has the same vulnerability, but part of being an executive is to take care of those that you have a duty of care to. And in this case, his focus is on how do I help and guide people through this situation that is fraught with uncertainty. Didn't do this podcast for answers, or at least not for myself, or not for anyone. But stream of consciousness for me, I find them productive, and trying to think through a situation and all the pieces and how the dynamics between the interconnectivity, the relational dynamics between the pieces. Explaining how a virus that is still being explained manifests itself as it moves, and his contacts will be the 4 nations, and how it moves through the 4 nations and the communities in each of those said nations. That's his job, among other things. But when he speaks to us, that's his job. And the plus that Matt Hancock has, don't know how he's feeling in this situation. Once again, I don't know him. But the plus is he has our attention. We're all ears. And he has a receptive audience in that we do want his guidance. So what he knows and what he understands, it may not seem that way to him, but we are asking for his guidance and asking him to explain. So it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pleasant, because this isn't a pleasant situation. God knows it's not easy, but that's his job. And the plus in this situation, he has our attention, whether he wants it or not, which I know I'm making the assumption that he does. He has our attention. So that's what I wanted to say. It's a bit of a ramble, but I think I just came up with the name for this podcast. Matt Hancock has our attention, and he does. This is DebraVWilson. I am in Bradford. Thank you for listening.